Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for taking your time to join me in this session where I'll be talking a lot more about the American Degree Transfer Program. Once again, my name is Kellie Ong, and I'm the course advisor for Adtp. Okay, without further ado, let me just share a little bit about the American tertiary education so that you have a clearer picture on what it's like to actually pursue your tertiary education in the US. So firstly, I would like to share with you about the flexibility of this program. Students are allowed to be very flexible. So students have the opportunity to actually decide on their majors. And if they were to, if they have change of mind to switch majors, they're actually able to do it. But I usually recommend that students switch their majors at the earlier stages, like within the first 2 years. Students are also allowed to do a double degree in the event they felt like they have additional interest that they would like to pursue in. Secondly, the American tertiary education is a holistic one because students are required to be exposed to many other fields apart from focusing on their major. I will speak a little bit more in depth about holistic education in the next slide. So the next point will be the American tertiary education offers a very, very wide range of studies. Whatever you would like to study, you name it, they have it. And to the point, sometimes students even can personalize their own major. So yeah, so from the arts to the sciences to communications to engineering, anything at all. And fourthly, there are diverse assessments within the American tertiary education. So it's not solely focused in examinations. Students will be required to do other assessments like assignments, presentation. Sometimes it could be a group work, it could be individual, and then of course there are also quizzes around, and then depending on the course, perhaps you may be doing certain literature review or even projects. Yeah, so it's not just exams. So there are many other components that will also count towards the grading. Okay, so here's just a general overview about the American tertiary education, how it works. So students will be fulfilling the major requirement. And on top of that, they also have this component called the general education. Typically, for a student to graduate with a degree, they need about 120 to 124 credit hours. And they have to make sure students will be required to fulfill the requirements. So let me just share with you a little bit more about the general education. So this general education component is a very holistic approach where it really doesn't matter what student major in. It could be engineering or business, but they'll still be required to do these components. So students usually cannot run away from writing and oral communication classes. Social science classes will be like psychology, sociology, anthropology, economics, American government, classes like that. There is also the humanities courses, which are like philosophy, ethics, religion, as well as history. Yes. For the sciences, typically students will be required to fulfill physical and also biological sciences. So it's those usual science. Yes. Okay. Sorry. And then for mathematics, so even though sometimes a student may pursue a major in maybe communications or whatnot, but students will still be required to fulfill a math component. And finally, sometimes students will also be required to do fine arts. So they get to do fun classes apart from just pursuing their major requirements. Okay, so let me share with you why you should consider the American education. First of all, there are more than 4,000 US universities for you to choose from, so you are essentially spoiled for choices. Secondly, it's actually more affordable than you think. So let me go to the next slide. Okay, so this is, I would like to share with you a simple comparison. So this on the left This is actually one scholarship which I will share a little bit more in my other slides. So this one with Messiah University. So if a student receives this scholarship, the student essentially just pays for the room and board. So you will come up to this amount estimated per year. And then for another example of Missouri State, so depending on whichever scholarship the student will be able to achieve, so the estimated annual fee will be this value. So all this is not just the tuition fee, it includes everything. Okay, and then if you were to compare with other countries, for example, like the UK, you can see that the annual fees is actually pretty high. Yeah, this one is another example with a scholarship, and then one more, which is a Canadian university. So you can see US is actually more affordable than you think. Yeah. Okay, next. My third point is that especially in the state universities in the US, students have the avenue to accumulate additional scholarships. Of course, students will have to apply for it, but when the students are in the US, they can actually just apply whichever scholarships which are applicable to the student. So it could be departmental, it could be university-wide, whichever ones which are applicable to the student. Next, usually US is known for their top-notch facilities, so all universities will be equipped very well because they have grants and fundings available. So for example, if a student plans to major in the sciences, let's say engineering or aerospace, when the student has transferred to the US and they're in the department, they will have access to all of the facilities. Yeah. Next, students will also be will be eligible for this component called the practical training. So there are two types. So this one falls under the international student, curriculum practical training and optional practical training. So students have the avenue to actually do internships and even work right after they graduate, as long as it's within their major for 1 year. If it's under STEM, students can extend additional 2 years. So that will total up to 3 years of working experience after graduation. The next one will be exposure to diversity. So US is like a central hub where a lot of students from all over the world will pursue their tertiary education there. So I know Malaysia is already very diverse, but when you are physically in the US, you will be further exposed to way more diversity, learning more cultures from all over the world. Yeah. My other point will be opportunities. So when a student is in the US, there are actually more opportunities that students will be able to be eligible to, for example, undergraduate research. So of course, when such opportunities are open, students should grab it as soon as they can. Apart from that, there are so many other opportunities like academic conferences where if a student is eligible, they sometimes could be picked or, yeah, so there are many rooms for students to be exposed to, especially if they would like to have possible job experiences in the US. So the internship really matters. The next one will be for global skills. So like I mentioned earlier, students are exposed to diverse assessments. So from the beginning, students will be exposed to many, I'm so sorry, okay. Students will be exposed to a lot of interpersonal skills. So they will have to build their skills, very important, like teamwork, even like very important independence, and a lot more other skills. So yeah, I would like to go to my next slide. Research has also shown that in the US, graduates seem to perform more strongly in the areas of commercial awareness, negotiating, and language skills relative to graduates from other countries. So rest assured, from day one, when they join a American tertiary education, they will be exposed to all of this. And students will be required to brush up their skills and polish further so that they'll be more prepared when they're going towards their working world. So let me introduce the American Degree Transfer Program at MCKL. So what is ADTP? So firstly, please take note that this is a tertiary education, not pre-U, and it allows students to accumulate credits so that it will be transferred over as they would like to finish off their undergraduate studies. So how's the pathway like? Typically once a student graduates from high school, for example, either O-levels or SPM, students can actually apply immediately to the American Degree Transfer Program, where students will be taking courses and accumulating credit hours within the first 2 years. So in terms of affordability, students, if you do the ADTP, you are actually paying the fees in RM. Then you will leave for your heavier investment when the student transfers over to the US. So depending on how long the student takes here, so more on the credit hours. So in general, if a student does about 1 year here, then students has the remaining 3 years in the US. So if it's 2 years, then 2 years. If it's 1.5 years, then it's 2.5 years in the US. So on total, students will take about 4 years to graduate with a degree. And typically for 1 year, students will accumulate about 30 credit hours. And once again, about 120 to 124 credit hours to graduate. Take note, no pre-U required. So as soon as you finish your high school, especially year 11, and then you can enter ADTP. So here are our intakes. We have 3 intakes per year especially for the year 2021. January will be our long session. Our commencement date is on the 15th January. The next one will be in May, and the third intake will be in August. So let me share with you the courses that are offered in ADTP. Yep, there are a lot of them. So students have a lot of options and ranging for any field. So students will be able to fulfill many requirements here before they transfer over. So if you are familiar, it's about 1 to 2 years in Malaysia, and then off they go. And please be informed that there are also these general studies. It's a mandatory requirement. So students will have to fulfill this requirement as well, apart from the ADTP courses. Here's a sample study plan in the event you're not very sure about credit hours. So all classes are assigned with the credit hours. So typically if it's a 3 credit hour course, means students will be exposed to lectures for 3 hours, that sort of matter. So just an example, for semester 1, long semester, students are required to take classes like English, and then depending on the major, if calculus is required, chemistry, general psychology, and then this is including MPU. So the total credit hours accumulated here will be 17. And then the second semester, students will accumulate further. Yeah. And then when students have accumulated sufficient credit, then they can transfer over, and that will shorten their time in the US, depending on the requirements set by the university. So why ADTP at MCKL? Firstly, I would like to share with you about our personalized course advising. Every semester, without fail, students will be required, usually we recommend, and typically they are also required to schedule for course advising so that they have better planning for the future semesters, and also maybe plan short term as well as long term. And also depending if student plans to switch major or have any universities in mind. So all of those will be discussed during all of the course advising sessions. Secondly, we have very small class size as well. So students will have very good relationship within their peers as well as the lecturers. So discussion are always two-way. There's never one way. So lecturers will want students to speak up. So students will have to slowly get used to the class environment. Next, something that's very special to ADTP in Mckl, we do have this service called the peer-to-peer learning support, where we encourage students who have completed a specific course and they did pretty well. In the event a student who is currently taking that same class, they have any issues, they can actually sign up for this peer-to-peer tutoring, and then students, apart from having support from the lecturer, students will also get additional support from their peers. Yeah. The next one will be close-knitted community. In ADTP at Mckl, we are very close-knitted. I personally know the students pretty well as we also have very close relationship with our alumni from who are stationed all over the world right now for either for their studies or for work. The next one, the next 4 points, I have my specific slide, so we will move on to my next slide. So I will cover freshman seminar, our exclusive scholarships, what ICDL is all about, and also IB prep. Oh, for the last two, we have additional fees incurred, just FYI. So what's freshman seminar? In ADTP at Mckl, for all first semester students, we have one class. It's actually a service provided by us for first semester students to slowly get used to the American system. So they will be required to enroll into US College Prep 101. It is free of charge. Students just need to attend so that they gain familiarity. So a lot of topics will be covered, including the grading system, because it's very, very different from high school. So it's so that students are aware of what they're getting themselves into, especially the American tertiary education. Apart from that, students will also be eligible to join a lot of workshops. So from university application to applying for visa, as well as pre-departure. So all of these are pretty much well supported. So if the students have any issues in any way, all they need to do is to speak to our office, and then we will be there to assist them. And apart from that, I'd like to also share that we also host a lot of university visits. So one of the ways for students to know more about US universities is to attend the university talks. Next, something that's very interesting. We do have exclusive scholarships. So these scholarships are solely for the ADTP at Mckl students. So for the Messiah University, we have this Myfield Scholarship of Distinction, where the recipient will be able to have a full tuition waiver. So it's only limited to one recipient per year. I also add in the minimum CGPA requirement so that students are aware of it. So it's minimum 3.5 out of 4. The next one will be University of Central Oklahoma. Sometimes this one can change year by year, but at present it is valued at 6,000. One recipient per year, minimum CGPA 3.00. The third one will be with University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, valued at 6,000 for 2 recipients per year, minimum CGPA at 3.5. So if you're wondering, what about our partner universities? So in this slide and the next slide, we have a list of our the universities that we are affiliated with. As you can see, a lot of universities actually offer scholarships. This is for during admission. So you can see the list just goes on and on and on for every university. So if you look at Messiah University, there's the Myfield Scholarship of Distinction. If students, because it's only for one recipient per year, other students are also eligible for other scholarships. So it doesn't mean that students have no room for scholarships. Okay, and then here, there's University of Central Oklahoma. So typically, other students who are transferring, if they do not apply for this leadership scholarship, students will be eligible for $4,500 scholarship. But if students get the exclusive one, it's a higher value. Then for UW Eau Claire is here. Typically, incoming international students, they're eligible for 2,000 to 6,000. But if student receives this scholarship, they will immediately get the highest value. Yeah. So as you can see, there are many other universities that offer scholarships. Once again, this is upon admission. So when students are physically in the US, they are eligible to apply for more scholarships. It doesn't mean that their tuition fees will be the same. It can be reduced further with additional scholarships. Also, just to inform you, we do have universities affiliated in Australia. So we have the ones that we are closely affiliated with is University of South Australia. In the event you have other options apart from the US, and for Canada, there's Brock University, Memorial University of Newfoundland, and University of Waterloo as well. Here's the list of where our students have been to apart from our partner institutions. So just for a recap, I just want to share with you the affordability. So in the event a student receives the exclusive scholarship, students will only be required to pay for their living expenses. And also most of the time, it really depends on how the student spends their money in the US. So it could be reduced further. So as you can see, honestly speaking, US education can be more cost effective if you were to do some comparison. So this is one which is not exclusive, but it's one of the partnership that we have. So students will be eligible for either this or this scholarship. So my next one, let's move along. We have this ICDL called the International Certification of Digital Literacy. So this is an additional optional modules where students are allowed to take on top of Adtp classes. This is mainly to enhance digital skills. So there are many courses which are very interesting, like data analytics, cybersecurity, spreadsheets. So if any students who feel like they lack some digital skills, they can actually do this module. And then, fun fact, certain modules may be transferable to US universities as well. But of course, there are additional fees incurred if students actually take up the modules. Finally, why Adtp at Mckl? We do also offer IB prep. So what IB prep does is actually to prepare students better for their SAT exams. So some universities where they offer scholarships, and the scholarships may require certain standardized tests, so SAT will be one of them, and sometimes even be necessary for their application. So this is more to prepare students who have very, very big dreams, like top tier universities where they really, really require SAT results. So yeah, it's a 9-week program in January and August, and the fees will be here. 1,000 ringgit for Mckl students. For non-Mckl students will be 1,200 ringgit. So this is basically to give students head start so that they have a better idea on how to apply, because we also talk about applying to universities. Okay, the do's and don'ts and stuff like that. So how does IB prep help in Adtp? So apart from scholarship requirements or even application requirements, typically, just FYI, for transfer students, you may not necessarily need SAT, but sometimes may be required for certain majors. Yeah. So in IB prep, so if student picks up the IB prep, so they will be preparing for the SAT exams. And while preparing for SAT exams, they can still earn credit hours through Adtp and then also sit for it. And then by the time students apply for universities, they can just submit their application and whatnot. And then the following year in 2022, continued earning credit hours while waiting for scholarship for university application results. And then in the event, because students typically don't just apply to one university, they apply to a few more. So then students will be able to weigh the best option available. And then we'll see how it goes. And then we'll just look forward to hearing good news from students where they get accepted to the university of their choice.